Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. We are continuing our series breaking down the off seasons of the different NBA teams. Plenty to talk about with this team today. We're going to go up north and chat about the Minnesota Timberwolves, who made some big moves this summer. Joining me, as always, is Keith Smith. I'm Trevor Lane. Keith, Minnesota, Rudy Gobert changed the whole trade market this summer. I'm excited to dive into this team.
Changed, ruined, well, one way or the other.
Ruined is the word. Ruined our fun. Our summer of trades decimated by the Wolves. Thanks a lot, Minnesota.
Rudy Gobert trade. Yeah. And we got so many at the draft too. Yeah. Where it's like, no, they weren't all monster trades at the draft, but we got a lot. I was like, man, we are set, and probably still maybe got a couple big ones coming, but we'll see. But yeah, the Wolves. You know what? Hey, if you're the Wolves, who cares if you ruined it for everybody else? You made yourself better. So, it would be disingenuous to start anywhere but with the Rudy Gobert trade. So do you want to pull that up? Perfect. There it is. So Rudy Gobert acquired for Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Leandro Bolmaro, Jared Vanderbilt, the draft rights to Walker Kessler, then a 2023 first-round pick, a 2025 first-round pick, a 2026 pick swap, completely unprotected, a 2027 first-round pick, and then a pick that is very lightly protected. I will pull that up just so we have it here in 2029, I believe it is. And that 2029. That is just so we're all on the same page. That's as far out as you can trade a pick right now. That pick is top 5 protected, so very light protections on that. If it doesn't convey, Utah gets a Minnesota second in 2029.
And Walker Kessler is a rookie. So effectively, when I'm looking at this and I'm trying to do the trade math here, I'm essentially looking at this as 5 first-round picks plus a pick swap. I think this is part of why Kevin Durant hasn't been moved yet. Because this is such,
I think you're right.
this is such a huge haul for any team to get, for Utah to get in this deal. Now, all that being said, how much better does Rudy Gobert make the Minnesota Timberwolves? Like, is there a chance that it is worth all of this to Minnesota?
All right, so I'm going to split those into 2 different questions because I think he makes them considerably better, at least in the regular season. Is it worth it? That I don't feel quite as confident about because, to your point, 5 first-round picks, that's at least I don't want to be mean to Leandro Bolmaro, but that's at least 3 productive players, Beasley, Beverly, and Vanderbilt. In that trade. So you're talking, let's call it 8 things, right? Assets, whatever you want to call them, right?
Players, positive value.
Positive value, exactly. And that is for one player who is he's an all-star level guy, defensive player of the year level guy,
30.
Borderline all NBA level guy. It's just, he's not Kevin Durant. He's not LeBron James. He's not Kawhi Leonard, Nikola Jokic, any one of, Stephen Curry, any one of the guys. I mean, Gobert is probably 20 to 25 on the list of best players in the NBA. But then you have to factor in the context. Minnesota, they don't get free agents. We're going to talk, they got a couple guys this offseason, but they don't land max free agents, really. That's not what they are as a destination. And I think they are finally to the point where we just made the playoffs for the first time in a while since the Jimmy Butler year. That was the first time since they traded Kevin Garnett away that they'd made the playoffs. So it's twice in, call it, a decade and a half. And I think they're finally at the point where we want to be consistently a playoff team. And I do think Gobert puts them in that mix at the very least for, let's say, the next 3 seasons.
Now, we talked a lot about Karl Anthony Towns and him being best at the center position. This means you're committing to him at power forward, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here. If you've got Rudy Gobert, if you're paying Rudy Gobert what you're paying him, you're not going to stagger minutes with Karl Anthony Towns. You got to make sure they can play together. So that means Cat at the 4. What do you think about that? Is that really the right path forward for the Wolves? Kind of zigging while most other teams are zagging. We're seeing teams play smaller. The Wolves are saying, nah, we're going to play bigger.
Yeah, it is tricky, right? Because offensively, I think you're perfectly fine. I have absolutely no worries about Karl Anthony Towns at the 4 offensively. He can shoot, he can score. Yeah, he's probably not going to do a lot of creating off the dribble, but he's actually a pretty good passer. Chris Finch is one of the coaches that you really want if you want to play two bigs. He's had a lot of success, whether it be as a kind of an offensive coordinator type role in the past or in this role. So I do think you're going to be fine offensively. It's defensively, but what are we really worried about? Him getting beat off the dribble? Well, now you have the game's best eraser at the rim to take care of him.
Right.
Where it really becomes probably an issue is if teams really go super small ball, where it's like they're playing like a 3-4 at the 5 to close games. Then what do you do? Because you probably are going to struggle to close with both Gobert and Towns. But that to me that's an issue you worry about later down the line. And what you have the ability to do now is if we go back to that playoff series against the Grizzlies, they basically ran a layup line to the rim over and over and over again. And that's part of the issue with Towns. He's just not a good, backline defender. He's not ever going to anchor your defense. So I think they're looking at it and saying, you know what, we can still be offensively. This is enough of a defensive upgrade that we're going to be okay. And I tend to agree, at least in the regular season. I think they'll be fine. In the playoffs, we'll see. And this is not a Rudy Gobert gets played off the floor in the playoffs thing, because I don't believe that that's true. But that is tricky. Then on the flip side, though, well, if you close with only one of them, that's 2 pretty good options to have to close with, right? If you're going to close with just one.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, still, you would have to, with the amount of money they're spending on their front court, you would think that your ideal situation isn't, hey, we can pick one of these two guys to close games. You want both of them on the floor doing their thing. And Karl Anthony Towns has made some comments, which makes some sense, about how on the offensive end, he does the things that Gobert doesn't do, and then defensively, Gobert does the stuff that he doesn't do. And there is some synergy there to that. It's just going to be interesting to see how all this comes together. And I'm not saying that it can't. I think it can. I mean, there was a time when everybody was laughing hysterically at the Phoenix Suns moving Sean Marion to power forward and Amari Stoudemire to center, saying they are way too small. This is never going to work. Mike D'Antoni running up and down the floor. It's not going to happen. And then 7 seconds or less, and now the entire playing style of the NBA has changed. So I'm not going to look at this and say, oh, there's just zero chance that, because I want to see how this actually works out together. I still think, even if it works, even if it hits their ceiling and they're a consistent playoff contender, I still think they gave up a lot in this trade, but maybe for the Wolves, it'll be worth it. But again, they have to hit that ceiling of being a consistent playoff team year in and year out for, let's say, the entirety of Gobert's deal, which still runs, 3-4 more years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's your challenges. Are you going to be good enough down the line? That is totally a fair question, because Gobert, 4 years left to go, player option in 25-26, but he is also, let's see if I can do math here on the fly, he'll turn 30 or just turned 30. So you're talking his 30, 31, 32 seasons, definitely under contract. 33, let's see, what he looks like there. If we go to kind of the next big thing too, is you're now committed to this for at least 3 years, right? Because you are in a position where you just gave Towns a monster contract extension. It's the biggest contract extension we've ever seen. That's not necessarily a reflection on, it is on Towns. Towns is very good, but it's more a reflection on where things are going cap wise. But what we're seeing with that is, you're talking this year, they're 70, let's call it 72 million combined for the two players. Next year, 77 million. The year after that, $93.8 million for those two players combined, just those two guys. And never mind that third year, that's when Anthony Edwards' contract extension will kick in too. So you're basically going to be completely capped out for Towns, Edwards, and Gobert. So that means you got to get it right with all the other pieces around the roster in the next couple of seasons, because you're going to be extremely limited on what you can do moving forward, because you've gone all in on this bet that it's there. Now, Towns will be, of course, very tradable. He's an all-star level guy. you got to feel like, well, maybe we could still probably move Gobert if we needed to, if this doesn't work in a couple of seasons. But you're locked into this Twin Towers approach at least for the next 2, probably 3 years.
Well, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the other things that they've done this season. You add in to complement Anthony Edwards on the perimeter. You add in a guy like Kyle Anderson, who's he's got the nickname Slow Mo, but pretty versatile wing player. I thought that was a pretty nice signing for this team to get a guy like that, particularly stealing him from the rival Grizzlies. To get him, I think that's a nice feel. Like you've got these guys now, right? You've got Gobert, you've got Towns, you've got Edwards. Okay, potentially you've got kind of a quasi big three here, but you've got to put the right pieces around them. And I think that adding a guy like Anderson is a nice step towards making sure that you've got some pieces in place to really support these players.
Yeah, I completely agree. And he's a guy who could probably start for them, or he can come off the bench. He did both with Memphis. He's done both with San Antonio at points in his career. So, yeah, he can really pass the ball. He's a pretty good defender, can really hold his own against most 3s and 4s. Gives you a little bit of flexibility with that. So, yeah, I think that's a really good addition for them. 2-year deal. So when he comes off of that 2 years, they'll have early bird rights. So they'll be able to give him a nice bump if they want to, if that's where they're hoping to go. So, yeah, I think Kyle Anderson was a really solid pickup for the Wolves, considering where they go. Now, why I kind of mentioned you can start him, I think they might go with Jalen McDaniels in the starter or Jaden McDaniels, sorry, in the starting lineup. Just because I think they're going to want a little bit more certainty of a defender in that starting group. Now, your challenge is McDaniels, after a very promising rookie year where he shot 36% from 3, dropped it down to just 32% last year. But he was better in every other phase. He can block shots. He can rebound. He's pretty athletic as far as getting to the rim and those kind of things. If he can get back to being a 34, 35, 36% three-point shooter, you've got some really good balance there, and you've got easily the biggest front court in the league with Gobert, Towns, and McDaniels, and you'll be balanced. And if it doesn't work, then you can go to Anderson. You can go back to moving Edwards to the 3. I think their roster's more positioned for Edwards to play more at the 2, which is his natural position. But you do have some roster flexibility that you can build in there.
All right, let's take a look at what else they've done. They also add Bryn Forbes, which is just fine. You get some shooting off the bench.
Sure, and scroll that up.
Yep.
Just so everybody watching along can see. I didn't see it change, but I'm going to guess it did. I think it might be frozen on my screen.
Oh, it could be. Okay. I've got Bryn Forbes, Austin Rivers, Josh. So
Josh Minot. Yep.
Yeah.
Second round pick.
Let's start with Bryn Forbes.
Mm-hmm.
What do we think about adding him?
Yeah, good shooter. On coming off their bench. That's kind of all he does, but you kind of need that at times with Gobert-centric lineups. D'Angelo Russell is a good player who can create some stuff off the bounce. Edwards obviously can do that, but they're both a little bit streaky shooting-wise. So Bryn Forbes gives them something that they just didn't have on the roster otherwise, as kind of a designated shooter. And he's the kind of guy who you put him in there if he's hot, you play him and you let him run around and do some stuff. And if he's not, you sit him and you go a different direction. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And then same thing with Austin Rivers. I think that's a nice depth signing for them. I think that's somebody who comes in and he's just a quality veteran. They can give you minutes and not blow anything up, right? While he's on the floor, he's not going to completely let things fall to pieces. And really, that's kind of what you need. You need these kind of innings eater type players if you're going to be a consistent playoff team, because you can't have the starters go out and next thing you know, things just fall to pieces. And I think Austin Rivers can be that kind of game manager for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's only on a partially guaranteed contract. So if this is the year where he doesn't have it, you move along and you go a different direction with him. I think you're also in a position where you have Jordan McLaughlin still. You have Jalen Noel, a couple of interesting guards coming off your bench that have shown some stuff. McLaughlin in particular played pretty well at points in the playoffs. He was actually in games late over D'Angelo Russell at times. Now, they were asked about D'Angelo Russell because he is extension eligible this year, just like Towns. He's obviously not going to get anywhere near what Towns got. But there is a thought of, where are we going with this? And they basically said, hey, we're going to see. We're going to let this play out and see where it goes. But with D'Angelo Russell, I think the idea is they feel like he'll be better with this offense with the two bigs. So definitely, I'm open to it. I think D'Angelo Russell at times has gotten a bad rap for what he is. I think people focus too much on what he isn't as a player versus what he is as a player. I think he's a pretty good scorer. I think he's better at running an offense and he gets a lot of credit for at times. So I think he's okay. Yeah, he's not a great defender. But again, part of getting Rudy Gobert is you have that eraser now behind these guys on the perimeter. If that breaks down, you've got him back there to kind of clean everything up. And then it's got nothing to do with the offseason, but Anthony Edwards, I don't know that this past year was truly his full breakout season. And if it wasn't, that's kind of scary for the rest of the year.
Right.
Because I think,
tremendous.
He's going to be great for years and years to come. And that's notable because there was a point where it was kind of like, is he really the number one pick? Like, how do we feel about this? And and he was great. So, overall, I feel pretty good about their offseason, especially regular season. I think this pushes them up in the West within reason. I don't put them on that Warriors tier necessarily with the Warriors, the Suns, the Clippers, and the Nuggets. That's my highest tier. But I do have them right in the mix with that next group, Memphis, Dallas, New Orleans. I do have them firmly right in that group.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're aiming for right now and hoping to hit the next level if Anthony Edwards can take them. They'll go as far as he takes them. You know what you're getting in Towns. You know what you're getting in Gobert. It's Anthony Edwards and his development that can really take you to another level and then make the Wolves an extremely dangerous team in a very difficult and deep Western Conference.
And we didn't talk about him, but Wendell Moore added in the draft. I don't know how much they're going to get out of him, especially this year. We'll see. But he could maybe be the answer at small forward eventually if he shoots enough for these guys, because he's got that kind of 2-3 size. So maybe that's where they go eventually down the line. But yeah, and it was funny. I did have somebody ask me that they were like, where are they going to go with backup center? Because at points it looked like Naz Reid, looked like he was ready. Looked like maybe he wasn't ready. My answer is, well, you have Townsend and Gobert. You've got two centers starting. Yep. So, my guess is Naz Reid will still play. But if he's, struggling, he'll slip out. And then one we didn't mention because it was actually at the very, very tail end buzzer beater. They re-signed Taurean Prince. So that gives them another backup, probably more of a 4. I think his days of playing the 3 are done, but another option in your front court. So, this is a good balanced roster too, where you've got a lot of guys who can play, and you've got some different versatility that you can play too. So I give them a lot of credit for that, because I think a lot of teams they don't necessarily build out that versatility the way I like, and they're deep. They've got 10, 11, 12 guys that can all legitimately play, which is really important too.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a good team on paper. They're going to be a good team on the floor. People are a little bit down on them because of how much they paid for Rudy Gobert, and perhaps rightly so. But the production they get on the floor, I think they're going to be very, very dangerous this season. But
and that's tomorrow's problem.
Yes, exactly.
worry about that down the line.
Exactly. All right, everybody, give us your thoughts on the Minnesota Timberwolves in the comments section. And don't forget, subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel and follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Till next time, stay safe and see you.